He said this.
Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years.
Trump's acolytes like J.D. Vance and Howard Lutnick parrot this view, painting a picture of a hollowed-out country with empty factories, unemployed workers, and stagnant wages. The reality is the opposite. In other words, because of America's unrivaled economic power, that Trump can even attempt his tariff policy. It is U.S. economic heft that allows him to try to force the rest of the world to bend to his will. The real economic story of the last 3 decades is that the United States has surged ahead of all its major competitors. In 2008, the U.S. economy was about the same size as the Eurozone. By 2023, it was nearly twice that size. U.S. average wages were about 20% greater than the average of the advanced industrial world in 1990. They are now around 40% higher. The average Japanese person was 50% richer than an American in 1995 in terms of GDP per capita. Today, an American is about 150% richer than a Japanese person. In fact, the poorest American state, Mississippi, has a higher per capita GDP than Britain or France or Japan. And yet, Donald Trump has been convinced that all these decades, as America has moved ahead, it is actually in steep decline. His worldview seems to have been set in the 1960s, when in his memory, America was a great manufacturing power. Another piece of that antique worldview is an overestimation of Moscow's power, which in his mind apparently remains a towering economic player on the world stage with whom he can do many important deals. Russia, bizarrely, has been excluded from any new tariffs. The reality of America as the dominant nation in the fastest growing and most critical spheres of the global economy today, technology and services, seems to mean nothing to him. His tariffs have been calculated using a method closer to voodoo than economics. Among many mistakes, they are based solely on U.S. trade deficits with countries in goods. That America runs huge surpluses in services, exporting software services, movies, music, law, and banking to the world, somehow doesn't count. More than 75% of the U.S. economy is apparently intangible fluff. Steel is the real deal. But while America is the world's dominant power, it is not so strong that it can act this irrationally.
You know, that the Americans said, we just want to control the IP, we just want technology, we just want the brand, and leave the lower-end jobs for the world. The American international companies made millions and millions of dollars from globalization. The top 100 companies in America. Amazing. I remember when I graduated from university, I tried to buy a beeper, the Motorola beeper. Cost me $250. My pay at that time is $10 a month as a teacher. And the cost of making that beeper is only $8 for a chip.
Economists point to the fact that the U.S. needs to run a trade deficit because other countries want to acquire dollar-denominated assets because those assets have historically been viewed as safe assets.
Some economic experts point to the federal budget deficit as another reason the U.S. consistently has such a big trade deficit.
That is a source of the need for borrowing from abroad.
Economists say they're generally not concerned about the trade deficit.
That we need to reduce consumption relative to our income. How do we do it? Certainly not with bilateral tariffs.
That's because higher tariffs don't just reduce imports, they reduce exports too. When imports go down because tariffs make it more expensive for American companies to buy foreign goods, there are fewer dollars in foreign markets, driving up the dollar's value. This makes American exports more expensive for trade partners, so they buy less of them. In the end, imports and exports both go down, leaving the deficit unchanged. Told the Wall Street Journal it could take 6 months or more to actually implement the reciprocal tariffs. But many economists still worry the slew of tariffs will worsen inflation and lead the U.S. into a recession.
We have times when the trade deficit falls. You may say, oh, that's good. But in fact, no, it's bad. Because what it means is that the U.S. economy is going through a very rough time.
Here as the effective tariff rate that they charge the U.S. Isn't that weird? Like, all these countries charge the U.S. the exact same 10% rate. Well, again, I checked every single one, and all of them, all 115 of them, actually buy more from the U.S. than they sell, which gives the U.S. a trade surplus. As in, by Trump's definition, these are the countries the U.S. currently rips off. But Trump's answer to that is to punish them anyway, to charge their goods a 10% tariff. I don't know what logic explains that.